Welcome back, 365 Sports. Josh Neighbors, the lovely and talented star of stage and screen. You can see him on Broadway in Chicago coming up in December. No, I don't. I just want to see how you'd react to that.
News to me. Wow.
Yeah, you made the cut. You made it. You're in Chicago, so you're not the lead, but you're there. So
I did play. I was the head of the elephants in the Jungle Book for kids in 8th grade. That's about the extent of and also my dad asked me to not sing in church. So my musical ability is like, how everybody gets to sing in church.
Yeah.
I was so bad. My dad was like, stop, we're okay. It was fine. Yeah.
You know what? Good. You have to respect parents who don't believe the like kids can do everything thing. Like you have to tell them like, look, I appreciate you trying, but
yeah,
hey,
I appreciate that. My dad's the most honest person I've ever met in my entire life. And that's one of those times where it was beneficial, to be honest.
I appreciate that. I think the reason you have shows like American Idol where people come up and they can't sing is because their parents never told them like, hey buddy, like, maybe find a new thing that's going to be your career.
Yeah. I don't know why. I never really understood why so many folks who they had to know they couldn't sing. Yeah. Go on to these shows. Cause you have the ones where it's like, you had some ability, but there's just too many holes in your game. You know what I mean? And then there's the people who are just like outright suck and like they know they outright suck. I never understood.
They just want to be on TV.
Yeah, it's just like, but I don't know. That's kind of a different conversation. Like, I get a whole different thing. But I don't know why I never understood. But like, let's show this for the fourth time for this 1 hour episode. Like, we get it. There's some clowns in the group.
Yeah, that's why I like The Voice. They're already vetted and they're already through.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Yeah, these people can sing. That's just determine where they go.
Yeah.
Let's not have the rigmarole. Okay. Big 12 last night had a scare in San Marcos.
That's not a scare, Paul. That's a mass. That's good stuff.
It was great stuff. GJ Kenny, like week after week, keeps like basically sending out his resume on the field where it's like, hey, this offense is really tough to stop. We've got Moxie there in San Marcos. Also, I want to mention this to you. He was in a situation where he was going to have a quarterback that was eventually probably going to get kicked off the team because of his myriad off the field problems. And then that worked itself out. They didn't admit him. And then they go in the portal and get Jordan McLeod, who is perfect for them.
Yeah. I forgot Jordan McLeod was there until, like if you'd asked me, hey, where did Jordan McLeod go? It's like, oh, he probably said Indiana. Like that's probably what I've said to you. I want to talk about Arizona State. And I talked about Cincinnati last year in this way when they beat Pitt. I was like, this is a nice win. Let's enjoy this a little bit. I think also West Virginia, when they beat Pitt last year, felt like this too. What Kenny Dillingham's doing at Arizona State is really hard. It's really, really hard. And they might win 5 games this year. They might. Like that they've got 3 now, but like they might win 5. But there's progress. Yeah. And their roster was shot to hell because of what our old friend Herm Edwards did. They're like, Herm, you can't do this. He goes, the rules just don't apply to me for some reason. Like just at all.
But I mean, I'm pulling up their schedule right now because I looked at it like a couple hours ago to kind of find a bowl path for them. Just because I kind of want it for Kenny Dillingham. That would be a really cool thing. This is not just Herm Edwards. This is 25 years of bad football management from the athletic department, and really bad. Their baseball team used to be at the pinnacle, and now they're very middle of the road. Their basketball team used to be really good, middle of the road. And here they are in this conference that values those 3 things over everything, and they've got to get better. They're going to have a new athletic director. They're going to have a new, they have new coaches, and in certain sports. But their next game is, they got a bye week, and then they go to Tech, winnable. That's winnable.
Yes.
Not to say that there won't be something that pops up where somebody has a bad day and they've kind of got them. But they also have
Texas Tech's defense. That's a winnable game.
Exactly. They've got Cincinnati on the schedule. So, that's, and they have BYU. So, there's 3 wins in there. Now, can you get those 3 wins in what will probably be losses to Kansas and Utah and Oklahoma State and UCF and Kansas State?
Yeah.
Can you have that confidence if you do, in fact, lose all those games where you will definitely not be favored in?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So go like that's my thing long term for them.
Yeah. There's 2 conversations happening here. It's like, is Arizona State maybe good? Like, are they average? Mm-hmm. And I don't. They're competent, is what I'm going to say. And competence is a huge improvement over what they had last year. And their roster just looks better than it was last year. And as a team, they go down 2 scores last night, and they just responded better than they did last year. And they were, look, a lot of folks think this Texas State team, as far as G5 teams go, is going to be one of the better. I think, it's probably one of the top 3 or 4 or 5 in the entire country. And that's just, from what I've read and heard and whatnot. And I can't speak to that, but like Texas State, with that coach, it kind of stands to reason. So to go in there and have that kind of a victory, I know they had to gut that thing out, but like, they were not the team in the end making the mistakes. They were the better team. They were the team creating turnovers, and they're not the team shooting themselves in the foot. And they're the team picking up those late first downs, despite a really tough day from Scatabo on the ground. And I think no matter what happens this year, like obviously like things could crater and something bad could happen, whatever. But like, this all points to a coach who is doing a good job and players that are better and that believe in what the coach is saying. And like this, we talk so much about 12-team playoff, wins and loss, like all this stuff. Like, these are the stories in college football that when we cover a certain conference, we get to appreciate, because this is there are people who like Arizona State football. I have multiple friends who went to that school. They want them to be good, and they're encouraged, and they're happy. And I like to see fan bases happy, and they're happy because their program's improving. They found a coach, and the players have found a coach who they can identify with and is fighting for them. I don't know if Kenny Dillingham thought the job would be this hard, but man, is he grinding this thing out. Like, this is the best coaching job in the Big 12 so far this season. Full stop.
Absolutely. Stop. Absolutely. Agree with you. Tonight, we've got Kansas State and Arizona. That one's going to be very interesting. And again, like, if you're, just as a note, if you're watching this on 365 Sports Tonight, we understand that this game's already been played. We do. But we still want to talk about it anyway. Josh, this one could get weird. I'm not sure where to kind of push my chips on this game.
It could get pointsy. I don't think either of these teams have good defenses. Mm-hmm. I checked out the Arizona game against New Mexico. Not impressed. By what they're bringing on the defensive end. That happens sometimes. And then on the other side of things for Kansas State, like, I feel this way about a lot of Big 12 defenses. Like, there's a huge deficit for quality athletes on Big 12 defenses. There are not guys who really stick out to me from an athletic standpoint. Guys who are flying around and making plays in the way that, let's just use a K-State example. Like, I feel like a few years ago, and it was Savage, and then the linebacker, I'm totally forgetting his name, and then they had Anudike Uzama. I mean, they were
Juju Brents. Yeah.
I mean, like they had the guys, and like, I don't know if this defense has anybody I feel that way about, and I don't know if Arizona's got too many guys there. Obviously, linebacker that like Arizona's good, but like, I'm kind of wondering about that, because we acknowledge that these 2 quarterbacks are really, really good. Avery Johnson more so as a runner than a passer. But I think this game could get weird, because I just don't know if these defenses are that good. Now, Arizona's week last week at offense was not lighting things up. Tedero McMillan kind of was out of the game. I'm not sure if that was by design. Not really pressing, going full throttle. But I'm interested to see, can Kansas State make Arizona ask a different question? Mm-hmm. Right? All right, what if we take Tedero McMillan out of the game against a really good team? Not against Northern Arizona, against a very good team on the road. Can Noah Fafita make plays with this group and win a game on the road in a tough environment? And I want to see that, because their second leading receiver has 8 catches this year. And look, I think, Krosky Merritt might be pretty good in the backfield for them.
But he's not playing tonight.
Right,
So
that's right. He's out, isn't he? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
because
And,
the weirdest eligibility thing.
right. He
One
played
of
the
these
first two
things
games
was
and now he's out. That was super odd. Like
that one of these things was gonna happen to somebody.
Yeah.
Where he was at Alabama State. They say he played 4 and changed his jersey number, and somebody else, like he swapped it, which sounds like the dog ate my homework a little bit. But if it's true, it's true. So they and how this stat input works, I would not be surprised if somebody, up there, they just kept putting in whatever because they have a program that has coded for people with numbers, and they just kept putting in his number, even though he wasn't him, over and over again. They're going to have to go this is going to be, I'm sure that they have to send all this Alabama State tape to the NCAA, who then has to determine, there better be video of him not playing on the sideline, or this is going to be pretty tough to determine.
He's looked better. It's so in the first game, I thought he was a little. I know Conley's got in the end has more carries, but Merritt to me, I think is the better back. I'm not saying Conley's bad, but I think missing him obviously would be. I totally forgot that happened last week because that was that weird thing. It's they got the 2 maybe decent backs right. They're replacing Jonah Coleman, but they're gonna need the run game tonight, and they're gonna have to block it up front. And Fafita can win games on his own, but their passing offense feels very limited. Now, the one trick they have is quite good, but Conley's their second leading receiver, and they've got nobody who's got more. Conley's got 8 catches, but none of their guys who you'd call pass catchers, wide receivers and tight ends, has more than 4 receptions, besides the obvious. So that's I think Kansas State can make them ask that question on defense, but they have to do it because Fafita will light you up if you give them time, if you let Tetaroa run the tree. And I mean, this guy is just so good at getting open. He knows how to get open, and he knows how to run when he gets the ball too. He understands angles and where to go and how to lose you and how to shake guys, and he's got hands, he's got size, he's got speed. That dude is a complete package. I mean, honestly, I'd say Travis Hunter's probably one pretty good case for Tetaroa as the second best player in the league.
Yeah.
I think there's a pretty good case for that.
Yeah. There's only one other league versus league, even though the one we just talked about is non-conference. Yeah, non-conference game. But UCF and TCU, Josh, this is proving ground for both of them. It's especially huge for UCF, who has not played a team in the Power Four yet, as where TCU has. They played Stanford, and Stanford gave them a little bit of trouble early, but TCU closed out that game. We don't really know who either of these teams are yet, and I feel like tomorrow night this is the first time we're going to find that out.
Yeah, so talk about asking questions. Can TCU make KJ Jefferson beat them with his arm? Mm-hmm. We have not seen that happen. I can't remember the last time I watched the game and I was like, KJ Jefferson won that game. Florida last year was a really impressive performance. He was very, very good in that game. But he is prone to make some errors. And I don't know about you, Paul, but I have not been especially impressed with him throwing the football this year.
No,
they haven't needed him to throw the football at all very much this year. RJ Harvey looks like he's very good. This is my scouting report on RJ Harvey. But I mean, TCU, there's times they've been pushed around the last couple of years, after the championship season. And so can UCF block them up front? I mean, Gus Malzahn's teams scheme-wise are always very, very good. Mm-hmm. And so let's see if that scheme can go up against TCU and beat them in that way. And then UCF, I want to see how good your defense is. I think the one thing I'm watching with those 4 new schools, Houston, Cincinnati, UCF, and BYU, is are your defenses appreciably better? Can you play defense at this level? Because it was they were not. BYU's grinding out some low scoring wins, but teams can score on those new teams. They do get some personnel that can hang at this level, but it does not seem like across the board those 4 schools have personnel that are shutting teams down, and they don't have personnel up front on the offensive side that can really block teams. I'd say besides UCF. So I want to see can UCF start looking like a average Big 12 defense on defense. And they should be able to get the athletes considering where they're located and also who their coach is. So I want to see. They're like UCF and Texas Tech were my two teams where I'm like, all right, how good's your defense? Because I'll take you seriously once I see a good defense.
Yeah. Okay. The backyard brawl
Yes.
is a huge deal for both these teams. I think it's a slightly bigger deal for West Virginia, just in the nobody's expecting Pitt to contend for the ACC crown, and like they maybe expect them to be better. And Eli Holstein's put up some numbers in their first couple of games, showing the potential he had when he was one of the hottest quarterback prospects in the country. But West Virginia came in with a chip on their shoulder, and Penn State knocked it right off.
Yeah.
I mean, they absolutely did. Now, I know they came back and won, and they're favored in this game by 2.5. The over-under is pretty high at 63.5 for what this game has been for the last couple of years. It's on the road, which is not real. I mean, like on the road and home in this series is kind of, like
it would be a good environment, but like how tough
it's right, but it's like right there. Like you're not gonna. I don't think you're gonna feel like one way or the other if you're Pitt or West Virginia, depending.
Heinz Field's not going to be full, also, so it's not.
Yeah,
like it's some. Yeah,
but like you go to Morgantown, there's still gonna be a lot of Pitt fans there. Like it's not gonna feel like the overwhelming home game because again, you're so close. That's why it's the backyard brawl. What do you see from West Virginia, and if they lose this game? Even though it's not a conference game, do we kind of downgrade them even further in this future Big 12 race?
Yeah. So like I would say last year's game, West Virginia should win this game because last year their offense was much more limited and they lost Garrett Green in this same contest. At this point, like now that we're removed from that, we know that they've got a three-headed monster in the backfield. Garrett Green has become a better passer in general than last year he was. I know Penn State game withstanding. And I know Holstein's put up some numbers and maybe Pitt's offense is more equipped to score some more, but West Virginia should be able to have success against Pitt's defense. And this is a kind of game with considering how tough that schedule is. Like West Virginia need this game pretty badly. Because I thought Neil Brown was so so fired that like he was not even hot last year because it was just like they're just going to have him eat the year because they have a new AD and they have such a good year. If they're 1-2 and they lose to Pitt and Penn State the way they did, they got KU and at Oklahoma State and Iowa State and K-State at Arizona next. I'm not saying it get ugly, but like it's just not where you want to be. You want to have some more momentum. So I think if they're building off of last year, once again, like I want to see West Virginia if they can be as good as last year, because that means 8-9 wins, and maybe this year probably 7 because the schedule's a lot harder. But they should win tomorrow, and they should show the tools that have improved them since last year's win in another win, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think they should win this game. But if they don't, I don't know what to even think about them. Like you'll just be one of those things where it's going to be week to week and go on a hot streak, and then maybe we'll talk about where you are in the conference race. Utah without Cam Rising at Utah State, they're still 18-point favorites in this game without him. I think that's too high for this offense. Given, I know Utah State's they're not exactly playing Kansas or Kansas State or anybody who's going to. Oklahoma State, who's going to challenge him for the crown here in the Big 12, but 18 points still a lot given the fact that they are awful without Cam Rising and quarterback on offense.
Yeah, they're so bad. But Utah State's a disaster, though. I mean, what happened with Blake Anderson has really put that program back. But they'll be up for the game, you'd hope, right? But this is part of this is what made Kansas. This is why we all acknowledge Kansas has come along as a program because they built meaningful depth at the most important position. Kyle Whittingham should be able to build meaningful depth at the position. All right. And I mean, they trotted out, what was it? 3 guys last year? It was Cam Rising. Cam Rising. Was he? No, he didn't play last year, right? We thought we were going to see Cam Rising, right? And then we also saw Bryson Barnes last year as well. And I know Isaac Wilson, people are excited about him, whatever, but still he's very, very young. So let's hope that they can get Cam Rising back, and let's hope things look better at that quarterback position because Utah is a good enough program where they should be able to build some depth there. So let's see if they have.
Absolutely. Okay, let's play a quick game of upset alert. Okay, who is of these teams? Tell me legitimately or not legitimately on upset alert. Okay. Let's start with an easy one. Air Force down 10 starters playing here in Waco at Baylor.
No.
Yeah, not a chance. Okay. Rice at Houston. Houston 4.5-point favorites.
I don't know anything about Rice. I was proud about Houston's effort last week. My Donovan Smith stock is not doing well. That one is. It's not, and like I really just want. I think he can be really good, and it just has not worked out. And also, I feel bad for him. I mean, part of it's his decision, but like he's had three or four separate coaches / coordinators.
Yeah,
not even actually. He might have gone through the change at Tech, so he might be at 4.
Yeah,
at this point in time. I mean,
yeah.
At least at Houston's been 2, and you make the changes, it makes it 3. Like, so he has really gone through the ringer. And what year is this for Joey McGuire at Texas Tech? Is this 3?
3.
So actually, he probably was there the freshman for the change then.
Yeah.
So this guy has gone through so many different changes. So maybe NFL scouts will be like, well, you understand all different kinds of offenses very well. So good. That's helpful. But
he still hasn't picked up the don't throw the ball to the other guys.
That's been a tough part for him. Yes. But also I would say like he has been asked to make a lot of plays.
Yes, he has.
This is not an especially talented offense. So I would say that game just because we saw it happen last year. But I think Willie Fritz will have them prepared.
Yeah, I feel like, there's Pro Football Focus does this, so they have these kind of weird arbitrary rankings of players in the offseason. And Graham Mertz, and like a couple other people kept getting these like really high ratings. And I'm like, what tape are you watching?
It's like the 5 plays that I've selected where I'm like, just give him a chance. I'd have the tunnel vision when it comes to him.
Yeah. Okay. BYU at Wyoming, BYU 10-point favorite.
Wyoming doesn't look very very good.
No.
BYU's offense, I know for a fact, is not good. 6 out of, can I go out of 10? Can you go out of 10 scale? So I would say last game was a 5.5 out of 10. I'll say 6.5 just because I don't think it's going to happen. It could happen. I mean, anytime you go to play SMU and you score 18 points, also it's like your quarterbacks are bad. Before the season, we think that. They still look bad now. Yeah. Your offense is bad. So you're probably playing close games.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cincinnati, 3.5-point favorites over Miami, Ohio, who has a lethal defense.
Yeah, I'm going to go 12 on this one. Cincinnati has gotten better at quarterback. I'm not sure they've gotten better at all the other positions. So I'm going to go with I'll go 7.5.
Okay. Oklahoma State at Tulsa, 18.5-point favorites. Let's be real here. Yeah.
-12.
Let's be real here. They got their scare last week. And it makes me wonder about them maybe long-term defensively when they get in the league, but this was not one to worry about.
Yeah. Their players just aren't very athletic on defense. Like they're not especially athletic. But also it's the deal where it's like, they're so well coached.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if Arkansas is going to hand us the game, we're going to take the game.
Yeah.
Because our coach is better and our players disciplined. And Mike Gundy said it afterwards. He goes, we were just in better shape. Mm-hmm. We were better conditioned. And teams, when they get tired, make mistakes.
Yeah.
One team made all the mistakes last week, and it was not Oklahoma State. So, like I said this to you, Paul, too. Like last year, I thought they got about as much out of that team as possible, considering how the athletic deficiencies. I feel pretty similarly about this group, but they're going to be really hard to beat because if you screw up at all, they typically make you pay for it because they realize kind of what they are.
Yeah. They had Ollie Gordon contained until they didn't.
But every team's going to load the box. And also, so I'll tell you what hell on earth looks like. Danico Slaughter from Arkansas last week attempted to cover Brennan Presley late in the game. I mean, this guy, it looked like he had never stepped in a football field. If there is a hell, Danico Slaughter's third and fourth quarter covering Presley is what it looks like, because he had 2 pass interference calls on the same drive within 2 plays because he just couldn't cover him. And if you are going to go man coverage against Owens and Presley, they're just such especially Presley, just such a good player.
Yeah.
Just a really good football player. They make you pay. And look, Bowman's not any better than he was last year, But if they're going to load the box on Gore, it's not Ollie's fault. Teams are loading the box.
Yeah.
But Alan Bowman's numbers are up, and there's a reason for it. If you're going to play straight man on the outside, like typically no help, you either eat the PIs from, or and try and cover Owens, and also, Stribling's been really good for them too. And good luck covering Presley because they've got options in that area. If
you don't make him have to like throw into coverage, Alan Bowman's probably pretty good, like most quarterbacks. If there's a 50-50 shot as opposed to thrown over the middle or into zone coverage where things could happen for a guy with his kind of arm strength. Yeah. I mean,
and you can't rush 3 and drop 8 against you can't do you have to load the box up against them because Ollie scored like late in the game. He had a big first down. I forgot if it was a run or not. And they also got in the end zone late in the game. And that's the thing. He kind of
scored the winning touchdown too.
Right. So, and he does get better as the game goes along. Like he's got that kind of Derrick Henry head of steam type deal. But the dam broke and they found their best player for the most important touchdown of the game.
All right.
That's how they operate, man. They're going to keep finding ways this year. I feel like.
All right. North Texas at Tech. Tech is a 10-point favorite in this game, but 26. Their defense is abysmal.
26 out of 10. If you just can't stop anybody, let's have fun, man. Because I mean that's Texas Tech, and I'm not sure about how you all on the big channel 365 Sports, Paul. I'm not sure what y'all experience was with Tech fans. I know they have a rivalry with Baylor and especially Joey and whatever, but there is this idea. It's you just don't. It's like Colorado fans. You just don't get what's going on here. You don't see it. I'm I do. You all cannot stop anybody, and you never can stop anybody.
I will compare Tech fans now to what Cowboys fans have been going through in that I have found that, yes, that was them last year. I think this year, given how bad the first 2 games have gone, they're okay, let's stop playing games here. Because I think they, as a fan base, have greatly invested, not just emotionally,
oh my God.
but a lot of them are paying money in NIL and donations and things like that into this team to get them on the level. They want them on that level. They believe that they can be on that level. And there's no reason that they can't be. The one thing working against them is that Lubbock is far from places. But so are a lot of things.
I mean, they lost to a team last week that goes to the same problem.
Yeah. Far.
State, right?
Yeah.
Far away from
far.
And they got hammered by that team. So.
Yeah, it's far. You can win. That's the excuse you give simple-minded recruits that, hey, it's way far out there.
Right.
Okay, well, if it's better for me, then I don't care how far it is, But they feel, I think, that they are doing the things, and they're right, doing the things that they should do outside the program to help the team on the field. And then it's not paying off. So I think they're that worm. Garrett, am I right? The worm started to turn a little bit.
Yeah, they're getting a little frustrated.
Yeah,
you're not
because
the return on your investment.
It's that. You know what they sound to me like? They sound like complaining about the taxes. Hey, we voted for the school tax hike so that this road would get fixed and all this other stuff, and none of that has happened yet. That's I think what they're feeling right now.
The Tech fans. Here's what I'll say to you all. So unless you all invest, you're not going to be good because you need to invest in you need to pay more to get good players. I always say this about Missouri. Arkansas fans believe Missouri should be on the same level. You know what? Guess what we have? 2 major American cities in the state, 2 hours away, KC, St. Louis. And guess what? We're the flagship school in the state. Lubbock, Texas. I know there's a lot of talent across Texas, but you are not the flagship school in the state. And when it comes to football, you're not number 2. Number 2 would be, I guess you would say A&M, sure. And if you talk about success, TCU is number 3. Baylor's won a Big 12 championships. You want to put them at number 4, the number 4. So I don't mean to dog you like that. I love Texas Tech. Their fans are so passionate. Also, return on investment. This is the one thing about NIL. It's always weird to me. We talked about this though. There's when a kid does NIL, if you're a business, you're not actually going to see a return. Unless you have Johnny Manziel, you're not going to sell the number of cars, the amount of pizza. It's really just about your fandom.
Yeah.
And so, like Garrett said, you're starting to get PO'd, but if you're Tech, you have to invest because, like you said, Paul, kids are not going to go to Lubbock just to go there. You need to have something that makes kids who are thinking about a TCU, a Baylor, places like that, and they need to give them. And they have invested. I don't know, do you throw, $20 million at I don't know, pick your favorite defensive coordinator right now, but like to do something, I mean, do you try to hire Jim Knowles away from Ohio State? Like you can't. So like, I don't really know how to fix their defense.
Yeah.
I'm just acknowledging the problem. I'm not saying I have a solution.
No. But I do think that they feel like, hey, we're investing. We should see some sort of return on that.
I agree.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think that's where they feel.
If Big 12, like if the Big 12 is going to go through that stretch, which we had from 2020 until 2023, right? We had, in 20, 21, 22, 23, right? We had 8 different teams, the Big 12 title, or 7, whatever it was, right? Yeah, because Oklahoma State was the one repeat. But Texas, OU, yeah, they made it short, but like 5 other teams made it. Mm-hmm. And it rightfully so. Tech fans should feel like, why aren't we one of those teams? Why aren't we having our year up top? Where's our K-State 9-3? Where's our Baylor 10-2? I understand that. I understand the frustration because they do put good players. They put them in the NFL. So like, I understand why the frustration's there.
Yeah. All right. Last one. Colorado, 7-point favorites at Colorado State in Colorado State's Super Bowl, a game that they feel they should have won last year and didn't. Colorado's they're not a good football team. They have good players on a bad football team, but they're not a good football team. Right now, I would compare them to like a mediocre movie that has like George Clooney in it. Like George Clooney's not a bad actor because he's in this movie. This movie's just bad and he happens to be in it.
Yeah, that's like my thought on Roadhouse. Like I think Roadhouse sucks, and like I love Patrick Swayze to death.
Sam Elliott's one of the great actors of all time. He's in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that movie, but like it's got the lowest stakes ever, right? It's like, oh, if Patrick Swayze doesn't, come through, this bar will close. I'm like, well, the bar closes then. I don't really care that much. Yeah, it's pretty fair. Like honestly, Roadhouse, good example. We've got Patrick Swayze, Sam Elliott, and then we've got Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
And I think Ben Gazzara is a lot of fun in that movie too, but that movie is just really strange and weird, and I don't like that much. So, if the whole goal is to promote Shedeur and Travis Hunter, I think Travis Hunter's kind of fine. Like he's just so good. It's safe. Man, there's so much that goes into playing quarterback, and like if we're going to use Colorado as just a promotional tool, if that's like the goal here, they're not doing a good job of that either. Like you running off the field early last week does not make you look good. Dogging your offensive line is the worst thing you could do. You know what I hear all the time? It's like, why would you want to block if your quarterback's making more money than you? I don't agree with that argument. But the one I will hear is, why would you want to block when your quarterback talks like that after games? Mm-hmm. It's embarrassing. And if I'm an NFL team, like I've compared Shedeur to Jared Goff. He is on time and he's pretty accurate. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he'll be as good as Jared Goff is, but also like Jared Goff got humbled. I think being on a Super Bowl level quarterback or on a team that was in the Super Bowl and getting traded from LA to Detroit kind of gave him some perspective. And he's very talented and was able to really turn himself into a good leader. And he's a darn good quarterback. I don't know if Shedeur has the ability to be that humble.
Well, genetically, he is Deion Sanders' son.
I just don't know if it's his, but is it his fault? Is it his fault? Like, dude, he is chucking his teammates under the bus, and it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to see that happen. And like, is it true? But like, when was the last time you heard somebody do that? Well, I cannot think, especially in college.
Or you hear somebody do it and it works out on the back end. Like those situations are rare where somebody comes out and says something and you're like, well,
who was the last college quarterback though? Who was the last college quarterback who hammered his offensive line?
I can't remember. It
does not happen.
But when you hear stuff like when you heard, like, when I knew that wheels were out for Dana Holgorsen was when he criticized, like when he blamed the team. The wheels were out for Jimbo Fisher last year, like head coaches do it. And so it trickles down sometimes. Jimbo Fisher, when somebody asked him about the offensive system and don't you think it might have been figured out after?
Yeah, it's too complicated and teams know how to stop it. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, teams know how to stop it. He's like, no, the system's fine. The players just aren't doing it right. And you're like, okay, well then you kind of answer the question. Yeah, that means that you shouldn't be doing this if the players can't run it. Yeah. Like you should, as a coach who's making this money, do those things. Shedeur just needs to I'm not he's 22 years old. He's acting very much like a 22-year-old who is not grown. Like, and here's the thing, he's not grown up like a lot of people. Like He's grown up, very
he's
wealthy,
he's a 4-8 quarterback who got his poster in Times Square.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not normal. But the reason why he does is because his dad is Deion Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, I can't expect him. And this is where I'm, he needs to be held accountable for this, but it all falls on the coach in the end. You have a quarterback calling out his offensive line. And where does he get that from? That is from you. Also, your defense got better when your other son came out of the game. Like, Deion Sanders is a bad coach. He is a bad football coach in the college, at least, because he cannot build a roster. This Texas goes 5-7. And Paul, remember that season? Texas blew a bunch of first half leads. And guess what Sark did? You know what we have to focus on? Offensive and defensive line. They just went to the big house and whipped some ass. Pardon my language. That's recognizing your flaws and correcting it. Colorado is almost like worse than they were last year.
Yeah.
And that's all on the coach. And now his son, the quarterback, is calling out the offensive line. And I can't recall a time where a college quarterback has done that.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. All right, Josh, awesome stuff. Great stuff as usual. I don't know when
fired up on a Friday, Paul.
Yeah, it's great. Fired up. Josh Neighbors, Big 12 Watch. That's the name of the YouTube channel now. So search Big 12 Watch. It's no longer Crystal Ball College Football. It's Big 12 Watch with Josh Dadgum Neighbors.
Yes, sir.
That's
at Josh Neighbors _ on Twitter.
Yeah.
Paul, see you next Friday, man.
See you next Friday, buddy. Josh Neighbors. This is 365 Sports.